We can start. Thank you. Welcome everyone to our Abraham Women Alliance webinar. We have a fantastic group of panelists today. And thank you to all of you that are joining us from all over the world. It is an honor to host you. We're delighted to welcome you all. And what an insightful webinar from our speakers, are champions of human rights and leaders in religious freedom, for the religious freedom movement. Putting together these webinars is a fascinating discovery for Shireen and I, a discovery process for us, because we learn a lot from all of you and from our speakers. When we select a topic for our webinars, that specific topic is not only based on current regional political state of affairs, but maybe on interesting article that addresses the interfaith challenges in the Middle East, or maybe a speaker or author that we meet that inspire us. We find these webinars. Can I please ask everyone to please mute your Zoom? Thank you. Thank you. We find these webinars inspiring and transformative. Please take the time to take a look at our Abraham Women Alliance webinars website, where you will find recordings of our previous Zoom and sessions. Our deepest hope is that you also find these webinars inspiring and also transformative. Please join us in this journey of understanding an interfaith coexistence. It is now my honor to introduce our first panelist, Nadine Maenza. Nadine, I would like to, Nadine has an extensive biography, resume, and she is a champion of interfaith, not only in the Middle East, but interfaith values, not only in the Middle East, but the entire world. Nadine Maenza is a noted speaker, writer, and policy expert with more than 2 decades of experience as an advocate for working families and a champion for international religious freedom. Nadine is the president of the International Religious Freedom Secretariat. She also serves as a global fellow at the Wilson Center. In May 2022, Nadine finished her second term as a White House appointee on the U.S. Commission on International Religious Freedom, serving her last year as chair. In 23, Nadine was given the Hebron Salah Peace Award, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, from the Future Syria Party in Raqqa, Syria. And in 2022, Nadine was awarded the Earth Impact Award for current or former government officials at the Earth Summit in Washington, D.C. She was especially honored by separate awards from both Christian and Muslim communities. Her accolades are numerous, and I highly recommend that you take the time to read her entire biography. It is truly inspiring and remarkable. Welcome, Nadine.
Thank you so much. What a gracious introduction. It's such an honor and a privilege to join all of you today. I'm going to share my screen.
Maenza?
Can you guys see this okay?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. So with the limited time I have today, and of course, Syria could be an all-day conversation, I'm going to focus on the opportunity we have to further religious freedom, gender equality, and peace and stability in Syria by sharing about Northeast Syria and the opportunity we have to preserve what they have built there. Okay. This map shows the situation in Syria for the past 5 years, up before Bashar al-Assad was taken out of power in December of last year. So I first learned about the remarkable conditions in Northeast Syria after I was appointed to the U.S. Commission on International Religious Freedom. They had been covering it for a while. And, in 2019, I was able to visit and see for myself, and also see a Turkish invasion that was happening that was creating horrific conditions, targeting Christians, Yazidis, Kurds, and other vulnerable religious and ethnic minorities, especially women in those communities. And these crimes were were documented by the UN, Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch, and others. And unfortunately, the attacks did not completely stop. In fact, Turkey has continued to strike the region. About 2 million people survive with only a few hours a day of electricity right now, and also lots of struggles with water. And so in 2020 at USCIRF, and being single focused on religious freedom, we made some key recommendations to preserve what they had built in Northeast Syria, because it was a way to preserve the religious freedom. that they had preserved there. So I'm going to quickly move really quick, and I'm glad to answer questions and also share my PowerPoint and presentation afterwards if anyone's interested. But I want to just give you a sense of why this matters for Syria and why this is such a great potential. Back in 2012, with almost no international attention, a coalition led by Kurdish communities working in partnership with Syriac-Assyrian Christians, Yazidis, and others essentially stood up a new government. But this wasn't something thrown together overnight. They had been organizing it since as far back as 2004. And at the time, President Bashar al-Assad was consumed with the uprising in the Syrian's major cities. So when the coalition took control, it happened without firing a shot. Assad simply pulled his forces out. And the result was this three distinct non-contingent areas in northeast Syria. And they spent 2 years drafting a social contract from 2012 to 2014. So this was before ISIS was even a threat. So they didn't do this for the international community. They did this to actually transform their own society from within. And as you can see, gender equality, protection of rights of women's, and respect for freedom of religion or belief was a big part of it. And so the way this works, oops, hold on. There we go. So the way it works real quick is the government starts with organizing by community, about 100 or 120 families each. Each community, they elect co-chairs and vice co-chairs, always a man and a woman. So co-chairs, man and a woman, and the vice co-chairs, man and a woman. And so they have these 10 committees that are citizen-led, with issues like education, youth and sports, agriculture, women, conflict resolution, business, and more. And they could be a little flexible in terms of they could be a little different in the urban areas than they are maybe in some of the other areas. And during a study I conducted in the region, I had collected a list of the co-chairs and vice co-chairs of all these committees I had met at every level of government in several of the regions. And as I was going through this list, I realized that there was really very little, if any, duplication. We had co-chairs and vice co-chairs that all had different ethnicities or religions. And so what we would see is we would see like an Arab and a Christian co-chair with a Kurdish and a Yazidi vice co-chair, or a Syrian and Muslim leaders sharing power. And we always say that it feels like a religious freedom roundtable at every level of government. And what it has done is transformed the society all the way from the grassroots up. It's been really remarkable.
I'm sorry, Nadine, to interrupt. Can I ask Equiyam Blessing to please mute? Equiyam Blessing, can you please mute? Thank you.
You might be able to mute her from you.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm trying.
Okay. No, but I hear it too.
The blue dot.
Nope. Understood. So, so the reason I tell this story is if you look at this map here, this is when ISIS swept in from the Nineveh Plains into Syria. And as you can see, these three non-contingent, see the areas, they're actually the only areas pretty much not taken by ISIS in the Northeast were these areas. Assad pretty much pulled out his troops and kind of let ISIS take most of the Northeast. And so as many of you know, they ended up partnering with the US, the YPG, which was their militia now, the Syrian Democratic Forces, which is now a coalition of Kurdish, Arab, and Syriac-Assyrian militias. They went really village by village, pushing ISIS back with air support of the US. But what is most unknown is as they were liberating new areas from ISIS, they were empowering the local communities to set up their own self-governance, just like they'd already done in the Kurdish majority areas. They carefully included all religious and ethnic minorities and ensured that half the leadership positions were held by women. And they've adopted 3 official languages: Kurdish, Arabic, and Syriac, also known as Aramaic, the language of Jesus. So this, sorry, it takes a few clicks to get it. There we go. This is the government they eventually built, covering about a third of Syria. And I'll never forget a couple years ago when I was meeting with a group of Arab women in Raqqa who are leaders in the government there. And most wore hijabs, or very faithful Muslims who suffered under ISIS. And they shared how before the autonomous administration, they didn't leave their houses without a guardian. So I asked, how is it that your guardian allowed you to get involved when the autonomous administration came to set up self-governance? And I'll never forget how confused they looked. And one of them answered and said, no one came. We are the people of Raqqa. We are the women of Raqqa. And we set up the government of Raqqa. No one came. And so it just kind of showed how really each community owned what they built, and that's why it really works. And of course, this government isn't perfect, no government is, but what they offer is a rare and compelling example of how to create security and governance in fragile post-conflict areas, and do it in a way that protects and promotes freedom of religion or belief and gender equality. So this is how we look now. This is Syria right now. And you still see the northeast, and you see areas that Turkey has invaded and controls in the kind of orange, and of course the government-controlled areas, which is the gray, and kind of gives you a sense of where we are now. So on November 27th, as a U.S. designated terrorist group, Hayat Tel al-Sham, or HTS, was capturing Aleppo, I received several urgent calls from Christians and their families, even a congressional staffer desperate to evacuate. And as I worked to understand the situation, I ended up speaking directly with an HTS spokesperson. He urged me to leave the Christians, that they would be safe. And remarkably, they kept their word. But the story was very different elsewhere. As HTS moved south from Aleppo to capture Damascus alongside what's called the Southern Operation Room militias and others, the Turkish-backed Syrian National Army, or the SNA, who had joined them in Aleppo, pushed north, and they went into the Sheba region outside of Aleppo, targeting Kurdish, Christian, Yazidi IDPs with horrific atrocities. And they'd also go on to capture Manbij, which I'll return to in a minute. So after the HTS coalition took Damascus, their leader, Ahmed al-Shara, then known as Mohammed al-Jilani, became the interim president of Syria. Although he had been designated a terrorist by the US government with a $10 million bounty on his head that has since been removed, he immediately met with Christian leaders and others, promising to build an inclusive government. And so many who met with and worked with al-Shara describe him as a pragmatist. But he faces a profound challenge. He's promised an Islamic state to his Islamist fighters, including at least 15,000 foreign extremists, a vision fundamentally at odds with the promises he's made to Syria's broader, religiously diverse population. And yet, for all these contradictions, much of Syria and much of the world is hoping he succeeds. Syria can't afford to descend into another civil war, and its people cannot survive another cycle of mass violence. This map here shows, hold on, there we go. This is the religious and ethnic diversity of Syria. As you can see, it's so rich. There's so many different, it's got thousands of years of a beautiful history of these communities living peacefully among each other. And as you can see here in the red, this is the area where the horrific violence that began on March 6th, particularly mass killings carried out by government security forces against Alawite civilians, as well as some Christians, Sunni Arabs, and other residents of Alawite majority neighborhoods along the coast. So it started when pro-Assad insurgents launched an attack on government security forces in Latakia and Tartus. In response, the interim government mobilized forces, largely made up of these HTS and SNA fighters, as well as foreign fighters. And what followed wasn't simple retaliation. It has escalated into large-scale massacres. Entire neighborhoods and villages were destroyed. I've talked to eyewitnesses a family that hid in the bushes as every house in their neighborhood, man, women, and children were killed. Other ones I've spoken to were in an apartment where they took all the men upstairs and killed all the men. So it really didn't matter. They didn't ask people if they were pro-Assad or if they're anti-Assad or if they're Christian or Alawite. They pretty much just killed everyone in those areas, which is why we saw such large numbers. Tragically, there are daily reports of targeting, although not at this numbers, fortunately, but still targeting of Alawites in particular, but also others. And we even today saw last 24 hours escalation between the Druze and some of the Sunnis and some of the forces. So there continues to be conflict and violence that is troubling. So just a few days after that massacre against the Alawites, as Syria was still reeling from the violence, President Ahmed al-Shara rushed forward a surprise agreement on March 10th with SDF commander Mazloum Abdi to integrate Northeast Syria into the Syrian government. It only outlined main points, but they were significant, that saying Northeast Syria could retain its civil institutions and the SDF would come under the military command, but would be really policing local areas. And this doesn't require blind trust. Both sides could pull out if either side doesn't feel like they're making progress. But I think both sides want this to succeed. And just a few days after this, we saw the Constitution was released. And they were mainly disappointing to much of Syria in that there's a lot of contradictions. First of all, it was a Syrian Arab Republic. It kept that name instead of being more inclusive for all, representing all of Syria, saying that the religion of the president must be Islam. And while it does state that freedom of belief is protected, it also declares that Islamic jurisprudence would remain, quote, the principal source of legislation. And it also established a new People's Assembly, or 1/3 are directly appointed by the president, but the other 2/3 are by committee selected by the president. So while there's some concerns about the authoritarian history, also al-Shara was authoritarian leader of Idlib before they took all of Syria. So we definitely want to see a new constitution. This is an interim constitution, so hopefully within a year there'll be a new one. And so I know a lot of people are working to hope to improve that to be more inclusive for the entire country. Then on March 29th, a new government was announced with 23 ministers. And while al-Shara had promised that people would be pleasantly surprised by how colorful and inclusive it was actually disappointing in that it didn't represent anyone from the Northeast or from the Druze areas. While it did have a Kurd, a Druze, and a Christian, they weren't really related to the communities that we're talking about here, and no Alawites. But there were many ministers that were seasoned professionals, although most powerful posts remained in the hands of HTS, former HTS officials. I just returned from Northeast Syria last week. I've actually been in Syria 3 times in the last 6 months. And the real big news was this Kurdish Unity Conference, which might not sound like a big deal, except the Kurdish leaders in northern Iraq and the ones in northern Syria have not seen eye to eye and have not worked together. And so this is a really new development to see, KDP President Masoud Barzani and, Commander Muslim Abdi together, and to see them working to preserve what they've built in Northeast Syria. And in my meetings, I found something just as surprising, and that was the unity among the Christians there, among all the different communities wanting to preserve the society they have built. The horrific violence targeting the Alawite community along the coast sent shockwaves across Syria, and no doubt has had a big part in all of this. And even Arab leaders I spoke to expressed their support for keeping the Northeast with the kind of conditions they have. Another powerful incentive to keep what they have built is the conditions in the city of Manbij, once a thriving community that had embraced religious freedom and gender equality under the autonomous administration, was captured by the Turkish-backed SNA in December after the fall of Assad. And today it has spiraled into a dangerous place for its residents, especially for religious minorities. During my visit, I was approached by 2 different religious communities trying to evacuate people that couldn't even walk the streets. They were so in danger. So this is the fate that people in Northeast Syria are desperate to avoid. So despite their fears, they're not seeking autonomy or independence. What they really want is to make sure when they do integrate into Northeast Syria, into the Syrian government, they do so in a way that they're able to preserve these government structures they've built and also their own security. So in conclusion, I go back to this map again for you. As we consider a way forward for Syria, it's complicated. There are a lot of contradictions, but the one thing we do know is what they've built in Northeast Syria works, and it's brought a level of stability, security, and the people of the Northeast want to continue with the kind of institutions they have built. And so the question is, how could the international community better provide pressure to further maintain this rather than dismantling it? With much of the country destroyed, sectarian violence going on currently in Homs and some of the other areas, it makes little sense for the Syrian government to dismantle the Northeast and start over. So preserving this inclusive government and in some form would really free the Syrian government to focus the attention and resources on rebuilding the rest of the country, devastated by the civil war and, of course, decades of authoritarian rule. So I'd love, like I said, afterward, if there's any questions or if I can, answer anything in the chat, I'd be glad to do so. I really appreciate this time, and I hope that was helpful.
Thank you, Nadine, for this informative, compelling presentation. Your work is really extraordinary. The fact that you just travel so many times to Syria and you're so committed to your work and to the people of Syria is really commendable. I do have a question that somebody asked here for you, is that besides the legal framework that you mentioned in the Constitution, do you see the local organizations, small organizations, NGOs, or whoever is able to work in the area to be able to support this path towards stability, especially in Northeast Syria?
That's a really good question. I think it's been very almost all the problems with NGOs right now in the country have been sanctions. There aren't sanctions on Northeast Syria because those were actually lifted by the US government, but there are used sanctions on the whole country that's made it difficult. But I think the key, when Northeast Syria, before they started building the government in Northeast Syria, they actually started building civil society first. And that was they actually show a track where they did all three political parties, the government, and civil society. But then they told me, oh no, all of our activity was on civil society for a few years before we even started building the government. And I think that just is so important for all of us to remember is NGOs on the ground help, like you mentioned, Shireen, I know earlier about helping people to do some work. As much of that as we could do, as many flowers as we can help bloom in Syria to help build civil society is really key to building stability. So easy to just think it's all one thing, but it's not. It's a lot of things. So I think there's a lot of room for NGOs right now to come in and do work there. I think the government is really wanting all the help they can get, both the Syrian government in Damascus and Northeast.
Thank you, Nadine. Thank you for this incredible presentation. We're very grateful for your work. And now we're going to move on with our next panelist. Dr. Salah Ali is the General Coordinator of the Iraq Religious Freedom and Anti-Discrimination Roundtable and the General Director of the Middle East and North Africa Platform for Religious Freedom and Peace Building. He's also a fellow at the Religious Freedom Institute and has extensive experience in peace building, social cohesion, and protection initiatives. Dr. Ali holds a PhD in politics and international relations from Leeds Beckett University, a master's degree in peace and development studies from the same institution, and a bachelor's degree in international studies from the Open University at the UK. Additionally, he earned a certificate in politics from the university. And I don't know if you remember all that at the start of this session that I mentioned that sometimes when we're putting together these Zoom calls, something inspire us to do so. And in this case, one of a recent article that Dr. Ali wrote was truly an inspiration for this Zoom call. And he writes in his latest article, international frameworks often promote universal values of religious freedom, but these principles are not easily implemented in environments where religious identity is intertwined with national identity, politics, and historical grievances. Thank you, Dr. Ali, for that wonderful article, and the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Astrid. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. It's a great pleasure to be here, but next time don't put me after Nadine Maenza because she is really, really our superhero, and she travels a lot. And I had the great pleasure to meet her in National Prayer Breakfast in Kurdistan region. So she traveled from one area to another, from one Kurdish region to another, and just helping people out. So we are really grateful for her work. And so I was lucky enough, like traveling extensively and participate in around the world in the sitting in the conference and participate as well as listening to people. And like automatically when you are sitting in the corner, you will hear people's proposal, the NGOs, and you automatically in your mind you just to compare it to the reality that you live in, and sometimes it doesn't fit. And I believe strongly if you just have some support to Syria and North Syria, Nadine knows better because she is just working on the ground. That I'm sure she will ask more locals in order just to have enough impact in this area. So my point was that there's a huge discrepancies and differences between the reality on the ground and the international efforts by many international organizations. For example, if you just look at the MENA region, and as you see, there's a huge space that religion occupies in the public life, and in fact, religious identity, as you just mentioned, it's not just a personal matter. It is deeply tied to national identity, political authority, and even social belonging. So you will see the complexity of the situation when you just talk about religious freedom and promoting religious freedom. So meaning any efforts to promote religious freedom you will face resistance, and because challenging religious discrimination is seen often by religious institutions and by the government and by public in general, seen as a threat to the system that they just built for ages. So, for example, if you look at in 2000, since 2003, Shiite group are dominating the political arena in Iraq, and often in the election they win the election, and they have the power over the executive body in Iraq to implement the projects that they have. And that really, when you talk about religious freedom, they find it quite threat and to the system. So any attempt you try and just to any movement. For example, we have drafted a new law, a bill. It's been about 3 years. We try and using different ways in order just to pass it in Parliament, but we still have a lot of obstacles that many groups trying just to block the road ahead of us. So that's some issues that we have in the region. And the other one is like, as I said, you cannot separate religion from the political and national identity, which makes applying to national religious freedom standards much harder. So you have to have enough knowledge about what's going on the local and on the national level in order just to make, hopefully, to make changes in the region. And in terms of the religious minority groups as well, I believe that in Iraq, being a member of the minority groups such as Yazidi, Christian, Baha'i, often defines. So when you are being a member of them, it means you defines your place in the society, meaning that you will have there will be a restriction to the service, to the security, and the political participation. So I mean, if I give you a small example, in our roundtable discussion, some of the members of the minority communities asked us to not invite them, just to not go public, otherwise they will be persecuted, or if not, then they will be having like living under threat, and psychologically will affect them. So I think that in general, so being part of the minority groups as well is. So I'm trying just to picture like trying to convey the whole picture of what is going on the ground and in the Middle East in particular. And also when it comes to promoting religious freedom from international framework and from international perspective, mostly we focus on promoting religious freedom through Universal Declaration of Human Rights. For example, that every person should have the right to choose, practice, and change their religion freely. And this is really quite threat. And this is really forbidden just to talk about. At least the last part of it, like the first one, person should have, that's fine. Choose, practice, that's also fine. But when it comes to the change their religion freely, that goes to blasphemy. So it's in the last 5 years, we have never used Article 18 in human rights, Universal Declaration of Human Rights, because that causes a lot of problems. So what we're trying to be much more benign in terms of promoting religious freedom in a way that people understand it and don't make any trouble with the government, and trying just to ensure that the government don't see us as an enemy. Rather, we just want to, instead, we want to create and build kind of partnership with the government in order just to promote religious freedom in a peaceful way. Because at the end of the day, we are here in order just to support people, to support minority groups. But I see that we are also helping to support the political system, to the authority as well, in order to find a way to managing the diversity and promote religious freedom, and also to protect minorities through promoting religious freedom. And the last part of what I'm just trying to say is just in order to make changes, you have to be patient. Really, that's one of the key issues, because sometimes we blame international organization or project that it didn't work. I think because it didn't work because religious freedom is quite slow process. It's about changing people's mentality, changing religious leaders' mentality, politicians, and all this system has been here for hundreds of years. And that is really, you need to be quite patient, and you need to build to the capacity of NGOs, the civil society organization, because you cannot do it by yourself. It's not a single event that you just tick the boxes and you go. It's a continuous process that needs people from international and from local organization as well, in order just to create an army of people who believe in promoting religious freedom and protecting minority groups as well. And the ideas and the project that you're trying just to implement, it should be harmless, because, as I said, we are not here to make troubles. We are here just to make sure that people understand, because throughout all this year, people are misinformed about their religion, about their communities, about the threats that they just face. That's all we need to work on. And it's all about negotiation with the government, with the people, and just promoting. This is not easy. And on top of that, we need to be aware of the local context as a whole. So that's some of the key I just wanted to share in order just to make sure that people understand when they try to write a proposal, an initiative, or implement a project in the Middle East and North Africa area. And so thank you very much for your time. I don't know whether I just passed the time or not, but thank you for the opportunity. It's a great pleasure to be here.
Salah, thank you for your informative presentation. Would you like to briefly talk about your new project, MENA, the series of Zooms, the webinars you're going to be offering?
Yeah, thank you very much. Well, actually, as you mentioned, we are working as we have a platform called the Middle East and North Africa Platform for Religious Freedom and Peace Building. We kindly, Shireen, and your team really you were quite supportive from the day when. What we try, and as you've seen, most of the international organizations English speakers. I just wanted to make sure that all the values they talk about in English, we're trying to convey in Arabic, and also to create a platform for Arabic speakers people and from the region itself, from the local, to come forward and just discuss it. Because I think, apart from discussing all these initiatives, I think psychologically will help people, and I've seen it. And I've seen minority groups who they were had so much burden on their shoulders. When they had the platform just to talk, they were quite relieved, only just talking about their challenges, about the solution they want to share with the government. So I wanted to create, with my colleagues as well, to create that platform in order just to bring people together around the table and discuss. And hopefully we just, by end of, as you just mentioned, this initiative is about 8 consecutive roundtable discussion, online discussion. And by end of it, we will have a report about what's going on in the Middle East, and focusing on several areas. And then hopefully we'll publish it, and just hopefully just the international organization may just benefit for it, and also share it with the government, with the parliaments, with the education system, with the academic centers, and so on. So so we will share the link as well. And thank you very much for reminding me to talk about this point
Thank
as
you,
well.
Salah. We're looking forward to seeing your work, and we're delighted to support you as well. Well, it is my pleasure now to introduce a wonderful lady, Maenza Al-Kindi. I heard about Maenza I was scrolling through social media, and I read all these wonderful comments about a speech, presentation that Maenza did during a conference. I believe it was in Florida, in Palm Beach. Maybe she can tell us a little bit more about that. But let me introduce Maenza. Maenza Al-Kindi is a political writer. She's an affiliate researcher in political philosophy at Philosophy House. She's also a content creator, graduated with a bachelor's degree in corporate communications. She's interested in culture, politics, and empowerment, and she is actively involved as a speaker, MC, and session moderator. She completed Introduction to Philosophy program by Philosophy House. She's a member of the Social Media Pioneers Committee and volunteer as a media coordinator to the UAE National Elections Committee in 2015. It is my pleasure and my honor to introduce, to give the floor to Maenza. Welcome, Maenza.
Thank you so much, and I'm really honored to be here today and speak to all of you. And I'm also thankful to Nadine and Salah for everything they've said. Their work is really remarkable and inspiring, I think, to all of us. So I'll be speaking about the Abraham Accords since we had the Abraham Accords with Israel in 2020. And when I will talk about that, I need to go back to the beginning of it. So at the beginning of 2020, when the Abraham Accords were signed, our president, Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed, was asked about the peace, like why is it now, and why are we going towards that step? And I still remember the things he said. And at that time, he said, like, for every decision, there are risks. And of course, in this region, there is a risk in taking a step towards peace, unfortunately. But he said, like, we studied it and we found out that the results and the rewards for that are far greater than the costs. So we went for it. And in the UAE, we believe in peace, and we believe in peace that has a benefit for everyone. And you can see that right now, even when the war is going on, we are involved in the humanitarian aid to Gaza. And other than that, we are also in cooperation with Israel in terms of the economy and in terms of security in all levels, to be honest. But I will just share like something personal or a personal perspective about the Abraham Accords. Recently, I started reading a book called The Story of Israeli Politics by Amit Segal. And it is originally written in Hebrew, and I found the book here in the UAE. I bought it, but it wasn't translated into Arabic by the Emirates Center for Strategic Research and Studies. And as I started reading it, I just felt that I want to read that in English too. So I looked for it, and I couldn't find any translation yet to English. So that was like an aha moment for me, and I was so happy. So for me, this is also part of what peace does, that intellectual and cultural exchange that happens. This is an important part too, beside the economy, beside the security reasons. And I just love that because I'm someone who loves to read, I'm someone who loves politics. So that was like really perfect for me when I saw it. And regarding my speech at the Anti-Semitism Summit in Florida recently, I went there and I spoke about the Abraham Accords because, even especially after the war, people are questioning it. Like, is it working? Is it worth it? Is it really happening on the ground? So I just wanted to remind people and assure to them that yes, it is working. And before I even go to Florida and speak there, with the American ambassador in the UAE, Martina Strong. She's an amazing spirit and soul. And I told her about this summit, and I told her about like what do you think? Like, do you think the Abraham Accords are tackling hate? And she said, absolutely, it does. And I know with her work, she knows like more than any other person about that. And so this is what we believe in the UAE. And even before I went to Florida, I attended the Conference of Civilization and Tolerance in the UAE, in Abu Dhabi specifically. And I attended one panel discussion about tolerance and peace generally in the region. And one of the things that I really liked about that conference is that there were a lot of speakers and attendees from Israel in that conference. And during the panel, one of the speakers, I forgot his name, but he's working with education as with the education ministry in the UAE, and he said like what the UAE has done in reforms and changes in the education, which are still going on, by the way, it's really remarkable, and that inspired other Arab countries in the region, especially in the Gulf, to follow the same steps. So this is important because I grew up similar to other Arab countries at that time. There was this hatred towards Jewish people, towards Israel, and it was everywhere. It was in the media, it was in the education, it was everywhere. So to see all these changes happening before the peace and during the peace is really remarkable and important. And I don't believe that us as people, we have that responsibility to make peace work. We don't need to wait only for the leaders and for governments. And after October 7, we all saw all the flood of anti-Semitism going all over the place, all over the planet, on social media and in real life, in college campuses, unfortunately. And you can literally see that debate going on. Like, it's not about Jewish people, it's about Zionism. But we all know that they lie. Most of the time, when they say it's not about Jewish people, we know it's about Jewish people. They're targeting Israelis, Jewish people, Zionists, American Westerners in that level. Whoever believes in the right of Israel to exist as a state, we know that they are lying in that sense. And I personally believe that that debate and discussion about Judaism versus Zionism is something that is up to Jewish people only. They're the ones who are entitled to talk about it, discuss it from their views, because you have Zionism that is different in perspectives for secular Jewish people and for conservative Jewish people. So they are the ones who can talk about that. Us as non-Jewish people, I don't think we have the entitlement to dictate what Jewish people should believe in or lean towards. So that's all that I want to say. And if you have any questions for me, I'm more than happy to answer them. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Maenza. Thank you for your work. You're a true inspiration to all of us. We believe the work of the Abraham Accord is doing around the globe, especially in the Middle East, and we appreciate the work and the initiatives spearheaded by the UAE, especially against anti-Semitism. You have a friend. His name is Louay Al Sharif. We've invited him as speaker maybe a few months ago. The two of you are doing a phenomenal job promoting tolerance and understanding and interfaith work, especially in the UAE and in the United States, and especially on college campuses. Have you been doing any work on college campuses? Have you participated in other conference promoting the principles of the Abraham Accords and interfaith dialogue?
Yes, while being in Florida, we got the chance to visit Miami University, and we spoke to a few of the students there. And I would also thank the University of Miami, because from what we heard from the students, the Jewish students, they said that the leader the leadership or the administration of the campus made sure that Jewish people there feel really safe, and unlike other campuses, unfortunately. So this is what we also need to speak about. I mean, yes, there is negativity in some places, but we need to promote and give thanks and gratitude towards the other side, the other campuses that are doing really remarkable work towards the safety of the students.
Thank you, Maenza. Thank you very much. If anybody has any questions, please, you can text them, you can drop them in the chat box for any of our speakers. And again, thank you to our three panelists. You are a true inspiration to all of us. We cannot wait to see what you do next. I know that Nadine will be traveling the world, that's for sure. But I wanted to introduce now two wonderful ladies that just hosted a wonderful event in Brussels, Manel, Sami, and Deborah. And I will ask them to introduce themselves and to tell us a little bit about the work, the conference they hosted in Brussels. You can also find all this information in our website, in Power Women Media, and also the Abraham Women Alliance. And we have a very busy schedule for 2025. We'll keep you all informed. And I will now give the floor to Manel. Manel, can you please join Manel and Deborah? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Shireen. Thank you so much, Astrid, for this introduction. I would like also to thank Deborah for helping me in co-organizing this Brussels Forum, and all the participants, and thank Empower Women Media and Abraham Women Alliance for the trust. It was a very inspiring forum, because we have already more than 60 organizations, women organizations from MENA, South Asia, but also from Europe. And we had very brilliant speakers, especially from conflict zones. So we have Dr. Nahavandi Firuze from ULB University. She's Iranian, from Iranian descent. We have also Maneli Mirkhan from the House of Liberty. We have also a Kurdish Syrian journalist in exile in Belgium, Rodi Malek, who spoke about Syria. We had Mariam Shaw, who had spoken about Sudan, the conflict in Sudan. And we had as well Amira El-Perrin from Israel, speaking about the conflict between Hamas and Israel. So we had also as well Ukrainian businesswoman and philanthropist Alona Labediva, and we had again so many other organizations from South Asia, like organizations working in interfaith dialogue between especially Muslim and Buddhists, but also Hindus and other minorities, and working on the conflict in Kashmir. So it was very successful, and we had also seen the movies of by Deborah Paul, by filmmaker Deborah Paul, who were really inspiring. And I think we had an impact again, especially inside the European Parliament, because we had a very inspiring speaker, MEP, member of European Parliament, Juzi Princi, who is member of the FEM Committee, Women's Rights Committee, member of Culture Committee, who had a really inspiring speech regarding the role of culture and the role of education in implementing peace interfaith dialogue, but also the role of women in peace building and in peace negotiation. Of course, what we regret is that sometimes women are not included in diplomacy or in peace negotiations, but again, we wanted to raise awareness regarding this inside the European Parliament, and regarding the role of women in building peace, especially between the different faiths. And this is what Abraham Women Alliance is promoting, thanks to Empower Women Media at Abraham Women Alliance. We had this opportunity to show that women can be included into peace dialogue and also into negotiations, and how women, through different spheres and through different perspectives, as well as through different backgrounds, academic, media, like journalists, but also diplomacy, politics, and as well as NGOs can be part of this solution, and how they can contribute to peace through their work and through their commitment. Maybe I leave the floor to Deborah to add a few comments. Thank you so much.
Hello, everyone. I'm Deborah. Greetings from a very random, sunny and warm evening in London. It's taken us all by shock. It was such an honor to be part of the Brussels Forum at the European Parliament, and to stand or sit next to Manel, who facilitated the meeting so powerfully, so beautifully, to be part of Empower Women Media. And just as I'm listening to all of you speak, I just have this overwhelming sense of hope arising. And I think that's what I came away. Sorry, I'm sitting in a park. Forgive me for the ducks in the background. I came away completely, utterly inspired by the amount of women who just came to the table in elegance and grace to have their voices heard and to be building together. And I was so moved by, Nadine, what you said earlier about allowing the flowers to bloom. Just this idea that I kind of try and live firmly by as a visual storyteller, as a filmmaker and a writer, that we all have something in our hand that we can offer. And it might not be a huge NGO or in the area of politics, but we all have a voice that can be heard, and we can bring something beautiful to the table. And I think being part of that, that the forum just was seeing the work in action and seeing what different women and different organizations were bringing to the table and offering to each other, and the outpouring after the event, which has inspired, I think, if I can say on your behalf, Manal and Shireen and Astrid, this desire to recreate these forums in different European countries, potentially here in London, the Houses of Parliament, to give women a place at the table, which just felt very, very significant. So thank you so much to Shireen, to Astrid, to Manal, and to all of you for all the work you're doing. It's truly inspiring.
Thank you, everyone. We have a question coming in. This is a question for Manel and Deborah. Where do you think, and when this sort of forums, like the one you hosted in Brussels at the European Parliament, can be hosted in any other countries in Europe? And what would be the best time frame to do so?
Oh, that's a big question. Manel?
Yeah, I think, it's a big question. Actually, we tried to organize it during Women's Month, which was very important because a lot of, a lot of events were held inside the European Parliament. But of course, as Deborah mentioned, we can hold it in the UK Parliament. We can also hold it in the French Assembly, l'Assemblée nationale. We can also hold it in Italy, which is in the Senate. So we have different possibilities. In Germany, so we have different possibilities. But again, this depends on the agenda of the parliamentarians, because, as I said, it needs a lot of work to invite. Also, Deborah knows, to invite MPs, members of the Parliament, and to have also their availabilities to be present and to participate into the debate. But of course, it can be held ideally during Women's Month, but also during also the International Peace Day, which will be in September. So. I think it has to do. It has to be during this kind of international days.
Thank you, Manel. Thank you, Manel and
Thank you.
Deborah. We're looking forward to that, and we hope to continue the work with you. And Moza, the same question was directed towards your way. Where do you think it would be the right place and time to continue this work of groundbreaking work and grassroots work in the Middle East, to continue this interfaith work?
Well, of course, the UAE.
Of the
So
best
then
place,
we have,
absolutely. But
yeah,
besides the UAE,
besides we have Bahrain as well, because they have
okay.
the peace agreement as well. So these two places are the best. There were I So this is in the Gulf area. Morocco is another nice option for that. I mean, even there, because Jewish people have roots in Morocco. The community there is really ready for peace, and they made the peace agreement already with Israel. Sudan made the peace agreement, but then Sudan is living in really chaotic conflict right now. There's this internal war that they are going through, and I hope by the end of this war, they things would be really better for them. But for now, there's two places in the Middle East:
What do you
UAE,
think of Saudi
Bahrain, and
Arabia?
Morocco.
A big question mark.
Why not? Why not? Since there are the talks now. Trump said recently that they might be joining. So
Thank
let's
you.
hope for that.
Thank you, Moza. Thank you all. And now, Shireen.
Yes. So we just want to say a big thank you. We're coming up on an hour here of being together. Thank you for your patience. We know a lot of you are very busy and you made time for us. And some of you are even, it's dinner time where you're calling from Pakistan. And we're so grateful for you, Asia and Wagma and Lujane and Gunila. I could go on with all the names I've seen here today, Michelle Sanders. And I just want to say that, at the end of the day, we're a network. A network means that women and men freely collaborate together. We all have our own jobs and responsibilities and families, but this is a place where we can come and share. And so I had mentioned this earlier. If you'd like to host a small event like Manel and Deborah hosted, if you have access to a venue, we would love to help you host an event. We don't have a lot of funding, but we can help you with maybe a small lunch or a coffee break, and we can provide films and a slide deck, and we can basically give you the material you need to host an event in the workplace, in some kind of place where you can assemble people. And then also, if you're thinking, well, I can't do it a live event, but I'd love to do a Zoom event, we can also help you with that. We can also give you a platform to share any written articles, short films. We want to help get these messages out, and we really are seeing traction. We're learning that so many people are responding to social media and online digital content. So your articles, your photographs, your films, we can freely share those. So as I said, we're not an NGO that can pay salaries. We can just freely collaborate, and then we can provide a little seed funding for an event or a special project. So please reach out to us and share your ideas, and let's look for ways to collaborate. I would like to encourage you to know that this year we're going to Egypt and doing a training, Lebanon, and another country I can't mention. And we're so excited that these doors are opening for us. We're also hosting some live film screenings in Pakistan with our fellows there. So things are moving. We need to be patient. As Salah said, it's so good to have a man in the room who can encourage us to pace ourselves. But at the same time, doors are opening, especially with the younger people. They're just looking for content. They want to know that they can have freedom of expression, that they can explore, they can learn, and ultimately to live together in harmony. So I will close here. It's 10 o'clock in the morning in Los Angeles. But we do really thank all of you and honor you. And we want to stay in touch with you. So we hope this Zoom event encouraged you to continue on with your efforts. So I'm going to officially close the meeting. We're asking just our small grant recipients to stay on the line. There's some of you that are going to be doing some projects this year with us. If you can stay online. And a big thank you to Astrid, who is our fearless leader and just keeps us connected through these forums, and just a very brave woman.
Thank you, Shireen. You continue to inspire me, that's for sure. Thank you, everyone. And yes, we will continue the meeting with our grant recipients. Thank you.
Have a good day. Take
Thank you so
care.
much. Bye.
Best
Take care.
wishes.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Have a blessed day. Thank you.
And Astrid, you can actually, some of the people that are still online, you can gently click them out. There we go. So thank you. It's so good to see your faces. Good. Rebecca and Rasha, if you all could say goodbye, that would be great. This last meeting is just for a select group of people. And
Shireen, Rebecca is the program designer.
I just realized who you are, Rebecca.
Thanks, Shireen. Good to see you again.
I'm studying your face. I'm like, I know you. That's great. That's great. Good. And then Rasha, I don't recognize your name. Astrid, do you recognize her? Or Nguyen?
I am looking through the list. Please,
Yeah.
everyone that is not a grant recipient, can I ask you please to leave the Zoom? Thank you.
Yeah, and then I think you can just delete through the little blue buttons.
Yes, yes. I just don't want to delete the wrong people.
Yeah, they can always come back if they're part of the group.
Okay, we have Tina Wagma, Tina,
yeah,
Rebecca,
Yes.
Rasha Benataf.
Yeah, Rasha needs to be deleted, and Nguyenham blessing.
Okay, ask. Let me see.
Blue button.
Okay.
There. One more. And Nguyenham blessing.
Nguina, let me see where she is. Okay.
Okay, there we go. There we are. Thank you so much for joining us. It's so good to see you. Wagma, it's so good to see you. And Asia and Tina and others. We still need to delete. There we go. And Rebecca, thank you. Lindsay. And is that Mariam from? Yes, exactly.
Yes, I'm Mariam from
Yes, I see you. Yes. So we're so delighted you're here. You're one of, there's like 10 of you, 10 organizations and groups that got a small grant. And I wanted to explain that this is the first time we're doing this. And so we are cheering you on. And the reason we're doing this is because we had a foundation reach out to us and say, we love what you're doing in the Middle East. Can you introduce us to others who are also doing innovative work in education, research, media, convening events, working groups, films, diplomacy? And so we reached out to you all, and we're so grateful you joined us. And so really the purpose of this very short meeting is to help, for you to see there are other people involved and to encourage you to get going on your projects. And in June, we'll send you a progress report, which we'll share with our stakeholder to show them that you're making progress. And you don't have to complete the project. You just have to share a few notes, bullet points of, this is what we're doing. Maybe you're still in the development phase or pre-production phase. That's okay. You have till the end of the year to finish the project. So, several months. And at the end of that time, you want to kind of show what you've completed. Again, just bullet points. You don't need to write big, long, proposal, maybe a few paragraphs, just a one-page summary. If you can share photos or a video link, that would be fabulous. Photos could even just be, from the back of the room, or just something that will inspire the stakeholder to see that you're making progress. We know some of you work in really difficult areas, so maybe you won't fully realize, your proposal, and you have only accomplished maybe phase 1 and you want to do phase 2 next year. Be honest with us, because we know it's a hard area, but we're also responsible to the stakeholder that we have to show some fruit, right? If you plant a tree, you have to show some fruit. So we want to encourage you to, look at your action items and really think about how you can deliver some outcomes that would be encouraging to the stakeholders. I also wanted to say that if you have other resources that you can freely share with us, you could have articles, links, films, curriculum. We want to be able to share that with the network. And it could just be, one film or one booklet or something, because we want to empower more people. And we have some, tools, but they're limited. We know you have even more tools than we have. Also, if you want to publish an article and you want to share some thought you have about what's going on now, we're really excited to publish your content and your ideas. So that's really it. I'm wondering if any of you have a specific question or a thought for today.
If you all have time, thank you for sharing, but if you all have time, it would be a good opportunity to just, if each one of us could introduce herself and just give a short, like one
I
sentence
agree.
about
Great
the
idea.
project and what
I
you're
should have done that. So you go first, Lujane.
Okay. Perfect, thank you. So I am Lujane Kiki. I'm program manager at the International Center for Religion and Diplomacy. Thank you, Shireen, and also the funders behind the doors who I think are not with us now on this